Because he espouses things that some elements in society don't like, because they're woke, and because they have blinders on their eyes, and the only thing that's the truth for them is what they believe. If you believe anything opposite for them, you're sexist, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're blah blah blah. As opposed to somebody that, hey, like this young man, this is my religion. These are my values. This is how I was raised. This is what I believe. Right? Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Ronin Leadership Podcast. This is Mike Howard, but want to thank all of you for continuing to support this podcast. We've got some guests lined up coming up very soon. I spent the last part of last month really lining up a bunch of guests for the show, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to do some different types of things, but and it's still look at the leadership aspect, obviously, but it's good to delve off into other things, touch of politics, a touch of maybe just social stuff, just fun stuff, but just kind of mix it up a little bit this year. And I'm having a blast thinking about the things I want to do. First of all, I want to thank all of you for supporting my writing efforts. My latest thriller, Blood Promise, about a week ago, was #1 on Amazon in 2 categories, espionage and also military thrillers. So thank you very much for supporting that and downloading the book and giving reviews and comments. And I would certainly ask all of you that if you are so inclined when you read any of my books, but especially this last one, Blood Promise, if you would take some time to go on Amazon.com and look up my book, and there's an area for reviews, and you can pop in your review. It's all very helpful. I'm in the middle of finishing up. I can't say finishing up. I'm in the middle of writing the third in the Jack Trench series. It's called The Omega Deception, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it. I'm having a ball just writing it and coming up with concepts for the book. So thanks a lot. Continue to support this podcast by hitting the subscribe button, the like button, share it, please, with your friends, family. Also, there's started to put a link into our podcast to Ronin Leadership Thoughts, which is on LinkedIn. And we've gotten over 1,900 subscribers to that. I try to do it weekly, but depending on the rhythm of business, I may or may not be able to do it on a weekly basis. But I try to get a couple thought pieces out every month. Just a little bit more time for me to put things on paper and just throw out things that hopefully would be helpful to you, or we'd love to hear your comments either way. So again, continue to subscribe to this channel. There'll be links, as always, to MikeHowardAuthor.com, where you can find links to all the books that I've written so far. So let's get into today's topic, which is a little bit different. So there's been a controversy as of late surrounding a Kansas City Chiefs kicker named Harrison Butker. I follow football, but I love the Chiefs, but obviously most people kind of look at Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and some of these others, and but Butker, obviously is a Super Bowl winning kicker for the team, and other than I think Kansas City Chiefs fans, was probably relatively unknown until about a week ago, when he made what some people consider to be controversial statements. So the setup was that he was asked to speak to be the commencement speaker at Benedictine College, which is a Catholic university. And one can imagine that folks that go to a Catholic university are probably mostly Catholics, not necessarily all, but mostly Catholics, have been raised in the Catholic faith. I'm not Catholic, but I've My former wife, before she passed, was Catholic, so I got pretty well versed into uh, the Catholic beliefs, and it's beautiful religion, and it's, it's part of the Protestant faith, obviously. But one can imagine that the students there are not only given an education in their particular fields, whether it's business or whether it's fine liberal arts or whatever, but they're probably given a fairly good dose of education in Catholicism, or at least reinforcing uh, Catholicism and the core tenets of that religion. Well, Harrison Butker gave the commencement address, and the part that has caused some controversy is when he basically talked about the fact that, and I remember I wrote this down, but we've got some links on this video, which will have damn near the entirety of his speech. But he basically said that, in essence, I'm trying to paraphrase a little bit, talking to the students there, that a lot of them will go on to careers and will have successful titles and have fulfilling, rewarding careers, and as successful businesswomen. However, he said, and I don't think it's a however. It's actually, I'm sure that most of you are excited about marriage, and eventually having children that you will bring into the world. And he also goes on to other things. He's a strict Catholic. He believes in the core tenets of the Catholic Church, and which I'll get into that in a little bit. And so during the speech, he kind of blasted what's going on in society today, where he believes that there's the whole LGBTQ issues got blown out of proportion. That it's not uh, com- compatible with being a Catholic, in the type of Catholic that he believes himself to be, and believes that the church should be. Um, the whole gender identity, especially teaching gender identity or pushing such things in schools, he blasted that. He even blasted our president, who, as he said, is supposedly is a Catholic, and he gave the sign. Supposedly, I don't know because I haven't researched that. Supposedly, according to Butker, President Biden gave the sign of the cross at an abortion rally. Now, whether that's true or not, it's immaterial. And I don't want to get political about this issue either. You can either, defend it or not defend it. When I heard it, and I understood that the students they stood up and cheered after the end of it. So I don't know if a lot of them thought it was controversial. When I heard it, I thought it was a great speech. I thought, hey, this is pretty cool. This guy's a conservative and he's expressing his values. But holy smokes, man, this thing lit off like a fire, right? With the social commentary and the woke crowd, and of course, obviously, the mostly liberal media just blasting him. And of course, the NFL, being weak-kneed like they are, came out and said that we don't agree with his statement. It's a personal statement, and we believe in diversity, inclusion, blah 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 blah. Which is another thing that Mr. Butker was against, the whole DEI initiatives, and that's a whole different subject that we can get into, whether you think they're beneficial or not, or whether they're just a waste of time. Uh, so I listened to the speech, and I didn't find anything wrong with it. And I have a link here to an MSNBC video clip where they talk about this. And there's always a slant, right? And I don't care if it's left or right, because you go to Fox News and there'll be a slant about there. But there's always a slant, as if, I think the announcer was saying, well, these people have spent 4 years, these women have spent 4 years getting a degree, and he's saying that the most important thing for them is to have babies and to be married. Well, that's not exactly what he said, right? He specifically said that a lot of them would go on to great careers, but he believes that they believe that at some point in their lives, the greatest thing that they could have is a great marriage, and and bring children into the world that they can love and raise. He also broke down when he talked about his wife and how he met her, I think, in high school. And he started to break down when he talked about how she was the most important thing in his life, and really has been, the thing that has kept him going. So I thought that was pretty real moment. Well, my point is that, and always try this back, tie these things back to leadership. So whether you agree with what he said or not, right? Or whether whatever your reaction is to it, I think we can all agree he has the right to say it. Even on The View with Whoopi Goldberg and company, she even came out and said that, while she doesn't agree with, obviously, his views, because he's very conservative, obviously, and she's very liberal, she said he has the right to say it, and there should be no controversy about that. Bill Maher on his show, Real Time, and I actually watched this show because I get a lot out of it, even though I swing conservative, as you know, and he's very much liberal. Lately, he's come out against the far left because it's kind of, the pendulum has gone so far off the rails that, as he said, and we've got a link to a clip to what he talked about. It's the reason why there's kind of a backlash against the far left and the woke crowd and all this, because, as he said, well, why can't he say what he wants to say, believing that, going back to a time when a lot of Americans felt that way, that there was nothing wrong with, a woman becoming a wife, mother, raising children. There was nothing wrong with it. I mean, my mom was a first generation Japanese immigrant, married a GI, and spent the majority of her life raising me and keeping a household. She did work. She was worked part-time as a nursing assistant at one point, and then she cleaned houses. She was a housekeeper. A lot of times, at least part of the time when I was growing up. But I think if you were to talk to her, she would tell you that, the greatest joy she got out of life was not doing those other things. It was raising me, taking care of my dad, and running the household. Obviously, that's a different time. So in today's world, there's some women that choose not to get married. There are some men that choose not to get married because they want to focus on careers and driving those careers and becoming as successful as you can be in whatever enterprise you're in. I think that's great. I think it's all about a person being able to choose what they want in their lives. But what I hate is people just automatically going off on a tangent and blasting this young man for espousing conservative Catholic beliefs. The media has also been very quick to pick up the fact that, I think they mentioned there were a bunch of Benedictine nuns that got together and uh, blasted him. There was another article I read where some Christian coalition, but it's a group of Christians that are more into social causes. It's fine, but it's no surprise that they blast him. But it's interesting, you find very little coverage on people that support him. There are some Kansas City Chiefs players that have come to his aid and support. Tavia Hunt, who is the wife of the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs, came out in his defense, saying that, in essence, there's nothing wrong with him espousing his Christian principles. And I think that's part of the problem in this world. And again, I always try to tie everything back to leadership. Yeah, I've spoken before about when you are a leader, you have to be able to be tolerant of divergent opinions within your group, whether it's your leadership team or your extended directs as a whole. Everyone has a voice. Ultimately, you as the leader will make the decision as to which way, from a strategic point of view, you're going to go. But everyone has a voice, and I've seen cases of bad leadership or bad management where people are shut down in terms of their ideas because they don't jive with the preconceived notions of the person in charge. and it leads to bad morale, and it leads to people leaving, and also it actually stifles innovation. The more thoughts you have on a particular project, particular business problem, the better you are able to, as a leader, sift through the things that make sense, the things that don't make sense, then come out to a proper solution, right? The problem with a certain segment in this country, and it has grown exponentially, or maybe it hasn't, maybe it's just the press has given it a more credence than it has, right? But it seems like whenever someone like Mr. Butker comes out with conservative views or traditional family values, whatever you want to call it, they get blasted, as if it's hate speech and it should be condemned and blah blah. Well, you can condemn it all you want. I don't consider it hate speech. Like I said, I listened to it and I found nothing controversial about it. These were his thoughts as a conservative Catholic man, giving praise to his wife, giving praise to what she's done in his life in terms of, raising kids and being a great wife. He does not blast women who don't want that and want to have careers and be fulfilled in other ways than marriage and having children. He didn't condemn one and then totally praise the other. Now you can say what you want about his stance towards gay marriage, the LGBTQ issue, abortion, and again, this is where I think he's a very courageous young man, because there are elements not just in the Catholic Church, but there are elements within the Protestant Church in general that have liberalized what the Bible says. Again, whether you personally believe in the Bible or not, that's up to you. I was raised Baptist. I believe in the Bible, still read it every day. I believe it is the word of God, and that's how I stand, right? If you don't believe that, if you think it's just a bunch of gibberish and it's just a bunch of made up stories, or you have another religion, that's on you. And that's fine. My point is that he was expressing his opinions as a conservative Catholic man. I can't say a lot, let me just say some elements within the Catholic Church have become more liberalized. And so, abortion, they support; gay marriage, they support. That's up to the Catholic Church to figure out. And so he blasted, I think, those parts of the Catholic Church. There are other parts of the Protestant Church that have also liberalized. But that's a battle between the leaders of those religions to kind of figure out, about doctrine, and what the Bible says versus what you believe as a human. And none of us know the entire answer, but it is what it is. But what I really hate is the attempt to condemn and stifle him, right? As if, and even I've even read where there are efforts, there are people that want him out of the NFL. Can you imagine? He makes a speech at a Catholic university. He gets a standing ovation because he espouses things that some elements in society don't like, because they're woke, and because they have blinders on their eyes, and the only thing that's the truth for them is what they believe. If you believe anything opposite for them, you're sexist, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're blah blah blah. As opposed to somebody that, hey, like this young man, this is my religion, these are my values, this is how I was raised, this is what I believe, right? I don't hate you because you're gay. I don't hate you because you're trans. I don't hate you because you have an abortion. I don't I'm trying to paraphrase what he's probably thinking. I don't believe in those lifestyles. I don't believe in those choices. I believe I think he would say he believes that our government has gone too far left in terms of catering to this segment as opposed to the traditional family value segment. But again, that's a whole different subject. I'm just talking about this specific young man. And so to want to get him kicked out of the NFL just because he espoused his own personal beliefs is ridiculous. That's the height of intolerance. And as leaders, We cannot be intolerant. We have to take in everyone's opinions, and even though some of those opinions are wacky and off base, people still have the right to express those opinions. Now, you as a leader will determine which way you're going to go. You know, which opinions you're going to decide. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. This is the road we're going to go. These don't make a lot of sense, so we're not going to go this route. That's up to you, but you have to listen to everything and not just shut things down. And I think in society, we're getting into a point where, unfortunately and dangerously, I think, we have people that just want to shut down speech. If it doesn't agree with your dogma, if it doesn't agree with your beliefs, then guess what? We need to shut you down. You're seeing this actually now playing out in the college campuses, right? Lately, with all the protests against what's going on in Gaza and the whole Palestinian cause. Um, you have a lot of people that are pro-Palestine and anti-Israel, and seeing a lot of anti-Semitism, which is scary, right? But you see a lot of these folks that are protesting. They totally discount anything that has to do with Israel. They totally discount Israel's right to exist. They totally discount the fact of October 8th. A lot of them believe that didn't happen, right? Or they don't even want to deal with that. You know, who cares? We're more involved with this righteous cause, what they consider to be apartheid and all this stuff. Again, you can debate each side. My point is that they totally discount the other side, the Israeli side of the equation, the Jewish side of the equation. So are those critical thinkers? No, they're not. They're actually stupid. And a lot of these so-called college students that you see nowadays, I don't even like calling them students, because students are supposed to have critical thinking skills. You're in college to develop those skills, to listen to all points of view, and then you come out with your mind. You're not there to be indoctrinated one way or the other, or to just believe this and totally discount this, even though this aspect may, if you actually thought about it, cause you to reconsider your original hypothesis, your original theories. But see, they're so afraid of that, in my opinion, that they just totally discount everything else. And it's the same thing here. You have people that are blasting this young football player for espousing his family values, totally want to shut him down because they have these beliefs. Those beliefs, I'm not them, so they're valid for them. But the reason why they don't have critical thinking skills is they're not even willing to entertain what the young man has to say. Right? Like I said, on this particular podcast, you'll see a link, and the link is not from Fox News, even though I'm relatively conservative. The link is from MSNBC. I try to get my news sources from a wide variety, even though I know, like, to be honest, from a visceral point of view, MSNBC, if I were to watch that, 24/7, probably want to shoot myself, just because I totally disagree with a lot of what they have to say. But there are, or like The View, right? I purposely went to look for sources like that as I'm doing this podcast, because I don't want to just look at conservative news sources. I want to look at what other people are saying that I know that they disagree with what Mr. Butker had to say. So I was, when I heard what Whoopi had to say, and I listened to the MSNBC clip, and I saw how they slanted it, and then I listened to Bill Maher, and we've got the Bill Maher clip on here, plus the speech itself, at least a large segment of it. You can make up your own mind. I think the whole point of what I'm trying to get across is, let's not get to the point where we're so afraid of opposing opinions that we just want to shut them down, or automatically label somebody. I look at this guy, and he looks, well, number one, he's a clean cut looking football player. He loves his wife, loves his kids, and loves his faith, lives his faith. I think is pretty awesome in a world where a lot of people are fakes. He's living and he has the balls to actually say what he believes. I think a lot of people nowadays do not live that. They don't. They're too afraid to express themselves in today's society. They're afraid to say what they really think because, oh, I might lose friends over it, or I might get blasted for this, or I might be labeled this, and blah 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 blah. And where in America do we get to the point where a guy like this makes a speech like this, and it becomes this blown out of a proportion issue where the NFL diversity folks have to come in and make a statement. You don't have to say anything, right? Just say it's his own thing, and they don't have to go into, well, we support diversity include DEI initiatives, right? And again, I want you to look at this issue along with other issues that come around with a critical eye. So when you are when you're leaders and your job is to make the best decision for your particular enterprise, and you have divergent opinions, and even though you may lean one way, right, because that's the way it's always worked, or that's the way you believe, you got to listen to the other side. You have to. I'll give you a perfect example from my own personal experience at Microsoft. In the early days after I became CSO, I realized that the model that we were using at the time was not working. That model is very simple. It was very US centric. And we talked about this for years at Microsoft when we were giving speeches and on panels, right? It was very US centric. If there was an investigation to be done, some theft investigation or something to be done in Paris, we'd fly investigators from the US, Redmond, Washington, at headquarters, to Paris. Well, first of all, that doesn't make sense. They didn't know the turf. They knew their jobs as investigators, obviously, but they didn't know the leadership of our Paris subsidiary. They didn't know the turf. They didn't speak the language. They didn't have any relationships with the police and all these kind of things that you need if you have people boots on the ground in the different geographical regions. So I wanted to globalize our program, have people like investigators. If this was that particular example, have uh, French-based investigators, people from France, from Europe, spoke the language, had the relationships with the police, and the intelligence services, and the military, had actually were working in our subsidiary, so they had the relationships with the president, vice presidents, and all those key executives at Microsoft at our Paris and France, offices and subsidiaries. Because I felt number one, from a cost perspective, it just made more sense instead of flying people all over the world. And number two, you have geographical area knowledge, and along with the investigative expertise. Just take the investigations piece as an example. That makes for a better model, right? And you can also support the business better because you're there working with the business and understand where the business is going. But I had a segment within Microsoft, within our then we called it Microsoft Corporate Security, and I decided to change it to Microsoft Global Security to better align with what our mission was going to be as we were building capacity. Microsoft, we there was a certain segment that didn't want that. They wanted to keep it the way it was, and I understand why. They were the ones that were flying overseas. They were the ones that were doing the work, and they're doing great jobs. But I thought it could be done better. And I remember I could have just said, forget that. I was in the CIA for 22 years. I know how this stuff works. Better to have boots on the ground. We're just going to go this way. Well, we had a meeting, staff meeting, and we had a smaller staff then, maybe I don't know, 20 people or so at the time. We eventually ramped up to over 50 direct reports and probably a couple thousand vendors, but that took some time. But at this time, the footprint was small, and so we were able to talk about it. And I threw it out as for a debate, and it was a really rigorous debate. And people that were wedded to the current model had, good arguments about their expertise and they've been around for a long time, and it's never been an issue with them when they went overseas to get the job done. And they were right. That they were absolutely right. The argument on the other side was, well, that's true. You can go in there, do a quick hit, get the investigations done, find out who did the bad thing, and then come back home. That does nothing for our ability to be business enablers with that with the France subsidiary, because we still don't know the movers and players. We still have no relationship with them. We're thought of then as, break glass in case of emergency only, as opposed to having a steady presence there, where all those executives, the French executives for Microsoft, over a period of time, get to know global security, get to trust us as business partners, and we get to understand what their strategies are for expansion, growth, what have you, so that we can map our strategies accordingly. So we had this big debate, and I obviously went into the direction of globalizing. But my point is that I wanted to hear everybody's point of view. I didn't just shut off a debate. And I think what you're finding now, when you look at this controversy with the kicker from the St. Louis, is that people just want to shut him down. They don't want to hear what he has to say because it offends their sensibilities. It's stupid, right? So I would say, I'm sure you've heard about this, because it's been in all the news. But whatever your political leanings are, however way you roll, uh, that's fine. But I would say, look at the transcripts of this gentleman's speech in its totality, and I guarantee you, if you lean really liberal, you're not going to like a lot of what he said, because you're going to believe in the causes that he's against. If you're extremely conservative, you're going to say everything he said was great and I didn't see anything wrong with it. And guess what? Each side is fine up to a point. The point is where, if you're on the left and you totally discount this gentleman, you characterize him or make him a caricature of some Neanderthal cave dweller that lives in the 1950s and whatever he said has no relevance today, you're wrong. If you look at him as a paragon, as the Messiah, or as the end all and be all, and discount what folks on the left may be thinking or feeling because they support the causes he's against, then you're wrong. But you should take a stand either way. But I would say, have some critical thinking skills, the skills that our college students don't have anymore, that they used to have, or they used to teach, they used to support, that they used to nurture. Because, I'm a student of Stoicism. My dog's barking, but that's okay. It's probably someone walking by the yard. In Stoicism, there's not this thing about dogma. It only has to be one way. It's a lot of it is about learning different things and trying different things, and then eventually seeing what's going to work for you. But it doesn't discount, like that. The philosophy of Stoicism doesn't discount other branches of philosophy. And so I just think that when I saw this and I heard it for the first time before the controversy, mind you, I listened to it and I thought, hey, it's a pretty cool speech. I remember telling my wife, Janice, hey, this is a really great speech. And then, a day or two later, everything blows up and it's like people are incensed. NFL's incensed and these people are incensed and blah, blah, everybody's pissed. But the thing is, the last thing before we wrap this up, remember, 99.9% of the press are going to present things in ways to generate controversy. right? I purposely put the MSNBC clip on there because I want you to read the transcript. I want you to listen to what this gentleman had to say, then listen to the kind of slant that they have on MSNBC, especially the comment that the commentator said, well, these women have gone through 4 years of college and pay, no matter how expensive it is. And he's basically saying, well, the biggest contribution they can make to society is to be married and have kids. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. He said to them, while you may be, you're going to have successful careers, a lot of you, and you're going to have titles, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm sure that for a lot of you, the thing that's really going to mean most to you in your life is marriage and children. I don't find that controversial. There was a point in America when it wasn't controversial. But you're going to find the press always knows how to edit things, put a slant on things. That's why I always encourage you, look for yourself, then make your own decision, right? But have those critical thinking skills that the knuckleheads in college and a lot of the folks in media, both left and right, Fox News is included, they don't have critical thinking skills. Some do. Whether you like him or not, I think Bill Maher has come out and he and I are, again, I don't believe in a lot of things. He point blank said in the show, he's an atheist, not married, doesn't like kids, right? So he's totally, diametrically opposite from Harrison Butker. But his point was, what's the big deal, right? And I think he's actually coming afoul of a lot of people that are really to the far left, because he's like old school liberal. But he's even seeing this kind of stuff is stupid. Like, it's a lot of chatter for no reason. But it gives you an indication of kind of where our society is right now. Not only is it just polarized, but again, people don't use this. They don't use their noggins. They believe the first thing they believe, or whatever their preconceived notions are, then nothing else matters. Again, lack of critical thinking skills. You as a leader, don't be like that. Don't be like that. You look at the totality of an issue, business issue, and then as a citizen of the United States, look at the totality of the issues that are, plaguing our country right now, whether it's the abortion issue or economy, or whether it's the border issue or crime, or LGBTQ, trans, whatever those issues are, whatever your beliefs are. I know what my beliefs are. You have to look at everything from a critical thinking aspect. Don't discount any news sources, as slanted as they may be and as edited as they may be. Find out for yourself and then come up with your own decision. And that's all. That is my edict to all of you for this podcast. Ultimately, everything ties back to leadership, full circle, like the thing behind me, right? The book. Everything goes full circle. It comes back down to leadership. What I'm finding, whether it's the NFL or our president or members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, and in some cases, a lot of our CEOs, business leaders, there's a lack of leadership. It's all about going with the flow, not stirring the water, making sure you're politically correct. Even though you may have beliefs on the inside that are against that, I better not say anything. I better just go with the flow, right? Like, the NFL didn't have to say anything. This was his speech, Mr. Butker's speech, that he was invited to, that he got a standing ovation for, and they didn't have to say anything, right? But they had to, they had to go in there and jump into the fray, and they just made it worse, in my opinion. And again, there's a lack of cojones, I think, there in the NFL and in a lot of places. So stand up for what you believe in. This gentleman is standing up for what he believes in. It's not hate speech. He's not putting people down. What he's putting down are his beliefs about programs, or things like abortion that he disagrees with, because he believes it aligns with his Catholic beliefs. So be it. There's nothing wrong with that. He's not saying, that women that get abortion should be shunned, or that gay and trans folks should be shunned. He's not saying any of that stuff, but he's espousing his own beliefs. And if we can't be tolerant enough as a country to just listen, right? Before you start to condemn and listen to a snippet of what he had to say, why don't you listen? As the old adage says, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. There's a reason why. He wants us to listen more than he wants us to speak. So try doing that. Use your critical thinking skills. Get your sources of news from a wide variety of sources, not just the ones that reinforce your own political beliefs, right? And then make a decision. Then make a decision on how you believe an issue like this is and what it really means. In the grand scheme of things, to me, it was a young man making a speech, espousing his beliefs, and big surprise, he gave those comments at a Catholic university, right? And I don't believe any of those students took offense. If he did it at Harvard or Yale, oh yeah, he would have been jammed up. They probably would have had to escort him out with armed police guards, because the lack of tolerance on college campuses now it's just gone off the rails. But no controversy with him at this particular university, and so I don't see what the big deal is. But you may think it's a big deal, and if you do, I'd love to hear your comments. Let me know what you think. So that's all I have for today. This was a slightly different podcast. I know it's got a little bit political, but I wanted to try to tie in leadership with this particular incident. If there's nothing else you get from this, is just continue as leaders to develop your critical thinking skills and look at the totality of an issue, not just a sliver, or not just things that you're predisposed to. And I think you'll come out making better decisions as a business person. And again, as I said earlier, when you're looking at sort of the things that are really plaguing our country right now in terms of politics and other issues, if you look at it again from its totality and take in all points of views, you can make a better reasoned decision when you go to the ballot box, for instance. You decide to vote for somebody. So that's it for now. Again, continue to hit the like and subscribe button. Please share this video with others. Love to hear your thoughts, and certainly continue. I appreciate your support for my books. You can go to Amazon.com. You can find my 2 leadership books as well as my 2 thrillers, or go to MikeHowardAuthor.com. You'll be able to find links to all the books. So until next time, thank you for supporting the Ronin Leadership Podcast.